Blog Talk Radio.
Guests, two very interesting guests tonight for two different reasons, really. Similar reasons, but not what they're known for. First guest will be Ann Young, the owner and the promoter and owner and everything else at Bronson Speedway in Archer, Florida. She's here tonight to talk about, in addition to her Speedway, the main reason she's on tonight is to talk about a very special tribute coming up. I believe it's tomorrow night. She will clarify that. I believe it's tomorrow night at TJ HALPINS, which is a local watering hole that all the drivers are familiar with, and the Riverhead Raceway drivers are familiar with. And it's a very special tribute being given tomorrow night for Bob Finan, who is a longtime announcer, PR man, and just general do everything when it comes to publicity, media, website, whatever, in relation to Riverhead Raceway, but also way back he's celebrating 40 years this year, also being affiliated with Islip Speedway way back when. So that's our first guest, and of course we'll be asking Ann about her Speedway as well. And then second guest in the second hour coming up will be Kyle Ellwood. Now, Kyle is a competitor, but he is, I guess the second hour will be serving as a spokesman for an event that's also coming up, I believe, relatively quickly. If it's this week or next, I'm not entirely sure. I think it was the end of this week. The JAY TRINCA Memorial, about a young man who unfortunately was taken from the racing community way too soon. I believe the young man was mainly in go-karts. We'll talk to Kyle about that event. A lot of different people putting that together, some of whom couldn't appear on the program. So they had Kyle come on as a spokesman. When I tried to hook different people up, they said, "Oh, let me get Kyle Ellwood to talk to you." So he will return. Kyle will return to the studio and give us something about that event. But anyway, let me call in my partner in crime. Now, really 4 days a week, I can say he's my partner in crime, and I'm his. Mr. CJ Sports. How you doing, CJ?
Not too bad at all. I'm just glad to be able to sit in with them tonight's show. Hot Laughs and Stats right here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. Got the Cleveland Cavaliers and Toronto basketball game pulling up, so I get to watch some NBA action with my Cavaliers and keep up with the Cleveland Indians and see how the night goes. But just glad to be able to be here tonight. Make sure you guys check us out on Facebook, 110 Nation Sports, and check us out on Twitter at 110 Nation.
Okay. Is Ann in the studio?
No, there's nobody in the studio right yet.
Not yet. Okay. We might have to make a few calls. I know I put everything out this morning, and they said fine, so I don't know where they should have called in by now. Okay. but basically, what I can do is I can give some information. As this time of year is awards ceremonies and award nights and unfortunately memorials. We'll get into that in the second hour, and tributes of all types. I just got an email right before the show that Stafford Speedway, which is the speedway that runs generally on Friday nights, and we don't have anybody live on the program during the regular season. We'll have a few, hopefully, in now, heading into these weeks of the off season. Their banquet, the Stafford banquet, is on November the 18th. So for you fans in Connecticut and around the Stafford Springs area that consider your fandom and your main track to be Stafford, their banquet is coming up on the 18th, and there is tickets to that event. Some events, like the Whalen Modified Tour, I didn't know if they were going to have fan input and fan attendance in that one. Again, you can check the Whalen Modified Tour site for any details on that. I know that there's two events now coming up in November, the 18th, and also you can check the website for the New England Antique Racers, who have the induction ceremony of their Hall of Fame in November. Also, we've had Jim Williams and Paul Massey on the program, and they are the two gentlemen. Well, Paul is the president, but Jim is a member and also is involved in the traveling aspect of the Hall of Fame. But they have their event coming up in Rhode Island or in New England someplace, and you can get the information off their website about tickets and availability and the dates and everything that's available to you by just going on the website. But I do know from the email I just got that the Stafford banquet is on the 18th. So, and they have the email has all the information about ticket availability and prices and whatever else is involved. So, you people in Connecticut that are fans of Stafford and you want to, support your drivers and your champions and whatever award winners, that will be held on the 18th. Some news that prior to tonight as well, I was able to lock up one guest for next week. Kyle Soper will be joining us. Now, last I checked, he was going through the second practice of the trucks. I don't know where he exactly placed. I know all day long we were trying to track him, and they didn't participate in the first practice. There's two track practices. I know Bob Finan, speaking of Bob, on Facebook earlier was trying to track him as well, and I had to send him a little note in the comments section. He was wondering where Kyle was, and I said, well, there are two track practices, and sure enough, he was involved in the second practice. They didn't get out. They didn't get the truck out in time, whatever it was, mechanical or whatever they were doing with the truck. They didn't get it out for the first practice session. So they took part in the second one, and when I broke away from my laptop for a bit, the last I checked, they were, I think, 30th. So we'll see how that goes for Kyle this weekend. All you people from Riverhead Raceway, of course, checking in on Kyle all this weekend to see how he's doing for his debut in the Camping World Truck Series. But he will join us next week as one of the guests. A second guest I'm hoping to get is Darren McCabe, who I'll find out, I guess, over the weekend by Monday, if he can join us on Friday night. He has been my eyes and ears for the last season, at least, while I've been away from the track, and so he helps me get information. I write my own stuff, the blog, and the situation with the radio show, and some of the things, making contact with some of the drivers who I already know, but I'm in a different area code at the moment. So he's been my eyes and ears at the track, and I'm very appreciative of him, and we will be having him on. If not next week, he told me the week after. So hopefully we'll get him and Kyle on. Kyle is definitely for next week. So as of before he left, I got him. Before he left, shoved off for Martinsville, I got him on the phone, and he said he would definitely come by on Friday night. So Kyle Soper is a definite for next Friday. Hoping for Darren McCabe, and possibly, of course, I'll have time to set up a third guest, depending on what happens this weekend. Probably down, we have Kyle covered down there. There's also Wall Stadium is having an event this weekend as well. I heard that somebody, not exactly sure it was 90% that somebody that we know from the Northeast is going to run in Wall, so we'll see what happens there. Bethel is also running this weekend with, we had C.J. Lehman on last week, or 2 weeks ago. He's running in Bethel as well, so that'll be an interesting thing that I'll keep my eye on for this weekend and see how everybody from the Northeast does in those events. CJ, is Ann in the studio, or can you make that call?
Yeah, we can. Hold on.
Okay. You have the two numbers there I gave you today. Earlier.
I'm down now.
You got it.
Why do you keep moving? There you go. I'm gonna get this to work.
Technical issues again, huh?
All right, down.
Oh, here we go. Come on, Ann, pick up the phone.
You have reached the voicemail box of 51638.
Okay. All right. All right. For some reason, Ann's not by her phone, which is why she didn't call in, I guess. But anyway, I'll continue to talk about some guests I have lined up. Spoke about next week. Going to try and reach out to Jeff Gravatt, who has an interesting story. He is the PR man for Wall Stadium in New Jersey. So we'll talk to him in future weeks about his champions over there. And we've had people like Jimmy Blewett on, and a couple of the legend guys from Riverhead have also run Wall Stadium. We had Kurt Krieger on, who has run, if my memory serves me correctly, he's run Wall Stadium at times. And so we've had some of the, I know Richie Davidovich, who has been on Steve's show in the past when he was also concentrating on asphalt before I came along. He's had Richie on the show in past years. So Richie runs over there and is infamously won a event on a week, and I always remember this from early in the season, a week that the first practice was rained out at Riverhead, and Richie put the the family legend, in the trailer and took it to Wall and won the feature that night. So definitely wasn't a lost. Richie turned lemonade or lemonade into lemons, or whatever that saying is, lemons into lemonade, with a rain out, but then he also won the Wall Stadium feature on the same night. So it wasn't a total loss for him by any means. But we'll have him on. I also have some people, as I said, a lot of people, well, not a lot, minimally, people that have I tried to get on all year, such as Marty Hines, who runs similar to the New England Hall of Fame, or the NEMA events. He does a Hall of Fame for, I guess you'd call it, a nostalgia, the Museum of Long Island Museum of Auto Racing Nostalgia is what he calls it, and it's basically, I guess, the basement or the attic of his house is what it is. And he has some, race cars in the yard, and I think he has. I've seen I've minimally seen pictures of his layout. He has like a setup in the back where he has his backyard where he has some race cars, etc., and just nostalgia from items from Islip, Freeport, and Riverhead. So, again, I'm going to try and Marty is definitely the toughest person to reach, because usually if I'm going to reach out to somebody, by now I could get hold of him, and I couldn't get hold of Marty. So if Nancy is out there listening, Nancy, his daughter, by all means, tell your dad I want to get in touch with him and see if I can have him on the program now that we are in the off season. I don't think Marty has too much of an off season, but we'll see. A lot of things to ask him and a lot of things of interest that your fans would be interested in. Also, a lot of things differently coming up. We want to have Peter Milano, who we had or tried to have 1 week specifically, and couldn't, and another night where we had technical issues and he couldn't call in. So we'll have Pete on, and he is doing some things in the off season that he wants the fans to, I'm sure, take part in, even though it's not race related, racing related. It's more in the culture side. He is involved in that as well, arts and culture and everything else. Of course, we've talked to Pastor Scott. He has things going on. Perhaps I spoke recently with Jeffrey as well. Rogers, I'm going to have him on again because he is involved in that Long Island Needs a Drag Strip program. And so while a lot of it is, secretive right now for reasons of, technicality, I want to say. But we'll talk to him a little bit about what's going on there and update the fans on a lot of what's going on and see what's going on there. As far as the events at Bronson, one of the things I wanted to touch base on with Ann on, other than the Finan tribute, when she comes on, if she comes on, if we can get her, I wanted to touch base on what she's doing with her season next year as well. I know she wanted to get hooked up with New Smyrna and Speed Weeks in terms of a co-sponsoring event, but at least a companion event to Speed Weeks with a lot of the modified drivers going down there. I wanted to update and see what she's doing in trying to get the legends down there as well. Earlier in the season, and this was like in week 2 of my program of Hot Laps with Stats, we had her on the second episode, and she was talking about getting the legends to come down there, and they probably, I want to say, they're the easiest in terms of travel, because from track to track, because the rules are so uniform for the INX, and now I can say that the right way, INEX, INX Legends Division is the same virtually all over in any track. So that's why they travel so easily, maybe not in terms of getting the driver there, but definitely the cars are set up the same way virtually at every track in the United States, I do believe. So that's why Ann wants to try and get the legend guys to come down there, guys and girls. And so we'll again, assuming that she comes on, hopefully we will see that. We'll ask her about that as well. No, just a couple of Bob Finan stories before Ann comes on, and we can talk to her about them as well. I have 2 that are very interesting. First of all, I'm very sorry that I'm going to miss the event, not being there. But Bob and I go way back. Story number 1 with Bob that I remember is having to do with me personally. Back in the Islip days, I was working or freelancing for the best way to put this would be mom and pop paper. Was a gentleman and his wife that put the newspaper together when there was still newspapers and not so much internet. And he put together a newspaper, a racing newspaper, and I was freelancing for him at Islip. And 1 week I came to the pit gate, and Bob says to me, "We can't let you in on the pit pass." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, your paper went belly up." And usually I had heard from the gentleman every week because I was writing for him and submitting stories to him, or at least my column. And he said, your paper went belly up. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And it was the getting there, the following Saturday was the first time I had heard about it. And Bob was the one that let me know about it. And, of course, he said, I'll let you in this week, but next week you're going to have to find a different way to get in. I said, fine. And I went in, and I was very puzzled. Did my research with the idea that, you know, it wasn't that I didn't believe him, but I figured I'll treat it like a regular week until I find out otherwise. And needless to say, it was Saturday night late, I couldn't call his house, but the next morning, or the next day, I gave him a call, and his wife answered and said, yes, unfortunately, he had a heart attack, and we're not going to have the paper anymore. So that was my first Bob Finan story from years ago that you know, Bob was the one that let me know that my paper no longer existed. That's story number one. Story number two, generally speaking, as an announcer, it showed me, or I always tell people this is how I found out that Bob was an excellent announcer, and you know, everybody knows his ability that had been around auto racing on Long Island, either at Islip or at Riverhead all these years. But when the blunderbuss division first opened up, there was only one car prepared for the season when the season first started. And I want to say that it was only one car at first, and he brought the car out. The driver brought the car out. His name was Jimmy Nacella, and his main sponsor was 7-Eleven. So he painted the car white, red, and green, which anybody on Long Island knows that 7-Elevens, those are the three main colors you see. And so Bob used to have to announce one car going around in circles and basically running maybe 5 hot laps a week until the rest of the cars, or at least the majority of cars where they could race each other, got out there. But he did a fine job for like the first 4 want to say maybe 4 weeks before like a second or third car got out there, and they were running like 3 cars for a while until everybody got their car prepared. That's my 2 Bob Finan stories for that, and it, you know, definitely get out there if you can get out there to TJ HALPINS tomorrow night. By all means, contact them for any information. If we can't get Ann on, she was supposed to come on, like I said, to basically talk about this event because she's involved with it. I guess involved in some way of setting it up because she has been involved with racing on Long Island for years, as she pointed out when she came on the last time she was on the program. She has been involved with racing both herself and then as I first met her when she was dating a mutual friend who ended up crew chiefing of late until he unfortunately passed away some years ago now. Ended up crew chiefing for Louis Maestri, but was crew chief for a while for Chris Young, which then I guess I don't remember the exact chronologic situation, but she knew Joe for a while and then ultimately ended up dating and marrying Chris Young. And so that's how I got to know her first, because she knew Joe DeGangi, who was a mutual friend was a Joe was the brother of a friend of mine at the time, his sister, and we used to go to the track together for a while, and then Joe moved on and ended up crew chiefing for Louis Maestri when Louis then went from late model, which Joe helped him build, or Joe built it for Louis, I believe, and then ended up on crew chiefing on Louis' truck for a long time. And those of you who know Louis' Super Pro truck, he has a memorial sticker to Joe DeGangi on the truck pretty much every year now, I believe, and does something at the end of each season in memory of Joe, who was his crew chief, as I said, and gives the last truck race of the year, gives an award out to the winning crew chief that particular night, I believe, and so on, and gives them like a $100 bonus or something of that nature in Joe's memory. So, but Ann was involved back then, and then also, as I said, ended up dating, marrying Chris, and then having two, a son and a daughter, who I first recontacted with, I guess, in 2011 when they were out at Riverhead. And Chris, at that time, Chris's son was running a legend car, and his daughter was there, and Ann, and again, a well-documented story that my fiance at the time and I used to go to the track and together, and they always made sure that we had something to eat and so forth at the end. And I know Ann and Chris for years, and at the time. And anyway, Chris, his son, was running a legend car at that time, and now runs his father's modified in memory of his dad, and every so often we'll bring the modified out. And I believe he's ran it at Bronson at his mother's track, which makes sense, and then also runs it at times in Riverhead for special events and so forth. So, matter of fact, next week, if we have Darren on, one of the things I'll talk to him about is that when Chris does run at Riverhead, Darren ends up crewing for him. He's on the crew. I don't want to say he's a crew chief. Maybe he is at this point. But I know he's been working. You know, when Chris brings the modified out, he crews for the car. Let me, and then, so that's it. We'll talk to her if she comes on. CJ, did you manage to call her or get back to her? Okay. Let's see.
I'm sorry, Mike, was you talking to me?
Yeah, I just want to know if you ended up calling or trying Ann again.
If what now?
Try Ann again, see if she's anywhere near her phone, and talk to her real quick, and then get Kyle on. If he'll call in at 8:55. He's supposed to call in.
You have reached the voicemail box of 5163.
Okay. All right. I guess Ann is not available. That's surprising because I spoke to her or texted her this morning, and she said I've got it, and I guess something came up. I'll find out after the show. But perhaps CJ, you can call Kyle and see if he can come on. If he's available now. But anyway, so and get out to TJ Halpins, and like I said, if you can't get, what you can do is you can get Ann Young on private message on Facebook. I would assume she's available there, and get any information from her, or contact TJ Halpins would be the next thing to do. And if you need any information about how to get out there and so on, that would be the thing to do. Call them up and ask them any information on tomorrow night's event. Stephen Halpin, who is the co-announcer right now with Bob at and a co-owner, I believe, of TJ Halpins. Also, he posted something on Facebook today, so go to his area and his page, and you can find the post, I believe. I saw something earlier today with information on that event. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be able to connect with Ann, so we'll see what happens there. Well, I'll find out what happened there. Unfortunately, sometimes you have guests that can't come on and fail to let me know, which is not a comfortable feeling. But anyway, such as Steve Billmeyer always says, it's live radio, folks. Okay.
Mike.
Yep.
Your guest is in the studio.
Okay. Is it Ann or is it Kyle?
Ann.
Okay, we got Ann. Hey, how you doing, Ann?
Hey, Mike. I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I had a little technical issues with my phone.
Okay, yeah, I've had those issues too. We all have. All right, tell the fans exactly what's going to go on tomorrow night for those that don't know and that want to get information relating to the event tomorrow night.
Well, we're talking about the Bob Finan thing over at TJ Halpins. I hope a lot of the race fans, race teams, I really hope they make a good showing for Bob. You know, it's 40 years the man's been behind the microphone. He's worked at many racetracks, at every racetrack that I know of here in New York. He's always there for the racer. He's always been there for the fan and the sponsors. And, 40 years is a long time to practice a craft that he practices, and he's quite good at it. So I think I would like to be able to give back and say thank you as a track owner, to have a personality up in the press box, being the voice of racing on Long Island and at Riverhead Raceway right now. He is part of the show. He's a big part of the show. He's a big part of what people come and listen to, and he's able to call the race in a way that teaches the fan about racing. And yes, whenever you listen to Bob Finan, it's like the first race that he's called. He makes it that exciting.
Right.
So tomorrow night at TJ Halpins, I believe the place is going to be full. There's a lot of excitement around it. We need to get away from if anybody's been on my Facebook page, we need to get away from the election stuff right now and just take a breather and go out and really let's roast Bob a little bit. Let's talk about some of his jokes and really what he means to all of us in the racing community. It is a community. It's a family. And Finan makes everybody look really good on the racetrack.
Yes, he does. And I was telling two of my favorite stories before you came on with him. I don't know. You were. I know you were definitely around at Islip, and you probably with Chris's crew at the time, and probably I want to say either dating him or married him by that time. But I know you were out there, and I was telling the fans about the time when Blunderbuss debuted at Islip, and there was the one guy for like the first 6 weeks of the season that only had one car out there. He was the one guy that had his car prepared. And for the first 6 weeks, he was the only car out there. And Bob had to make basic hot laps for about 5 laps sound interesting. And I remember the car was Jimmy Nacella, number 20, and he had his car painted up like 7-Eleven, green, white, and red, because his sponsor was 7-Eleven. And Bob used to make the blunderbuss race that was basically one car going around in circles, seemed interesting. So that was the one story racing wise I had that I remember off the top of my head. And then I also told him the story about he was the one person in the track when I used to have the pit pass to Islip that let me know that my paper at the time went barely up, and nobody from the paper bothered to call me. And one week I show up at the pit gate as usual and expect to be admitted, and Bob admitted me, but he told me this is the last week you can do it unless you get another writing gig, which thankfully I did. And he informed me that I couldn't use my press pass anymore because my paper went belly up. So he was the one that told me, and needless to say, when I got home, it was like late Saturday night, I couldn't call. But I was telling the fans the next day I called and found out that unfortunately the gentleman who owned the paper had a heart attack and they folded the paper. So he had health issues or whatever. But they had apparently told every other reporter except me. So I found out from Bob Finan. So that's my personal two stories, and I'm sure you have a couple of dozen by now. But yeah, Bob Finan is definitely, if anybody's familiar with racing on Long Island for the last 40 years, it's Bob Finan has definitely been in the middle of it. But,
well, and he's dedicated at what he does. You don't really realize it until you take a step back, or until you buy a racetrack, or until you land a good sponsor. The guy up in the tower that's calling the races, that's letting the fans, the new fans, the old fans, the new sponsors really get into the race and understand that they're seeing, a car spinning out, somebody hitting the brakes. He has a way of enticing the crowd and directing their attention to what they should be looking at, and making the sport, our sport, exciting, because it is, and it's a family sport, and he has a knack for doing that. If you need anything as a driver, you need some advice on when the microphone comes to your mouth, what you should say. He'll guide you, and I've seen him do it. A guy will get out of the car, the adrenaline is pumping, and it's really hard to conduct an interview at that point in time, but Bob will lead them in their interview to get the most out of advertising for their sponsors, what they did, thanking the people that helped them race. There's no one person behind a successful race car driver. It is always a team. And, Bob is an integral part of that part of racing, and also on the other side to keep it all together with the officials and what have you. Bob Finan and I go way back. I've been around a racetrack probably since I'm 7, 8 years old. When we used to watch Bobby Taylor and Benny Garaputo and the like, the Sam Atkins of the world, at Islip Speedway, and then I babysat for some of the drivers, and then I went up into the press box and scored with Judy and Thelma. I met Morris Metcalf, and as those scorers retired and moved to Florida, the seat was vacated, and I just kept moving over. So I've scored at most of the racetracks that Bobby has announced at, and we've worked together for many, many years at Riverhead Raceway, Islip Speedway. He's been out to New Egypt, West Hampton Speedway, all of the tracks here on Long Island. He's the voice behind in my generation. So right. I'm really excited about tomorrow night, and I really hope everybody makes concerted effort to come out. You can't go wrong. $30, you got a buffet, you get a free drink, and you'll get to, you'll get to put Bob Finan on the spot and just thank him for what he's done for us and for the sport here on Long Island.
Yes, and he, it's an interesting thing because I remember when the Calamity sold the track, people for a time were wondering, again, on Facebook, so, but a lot of the racing community, as you say, had, on Facebook in one manner or another, and were wondering if Bob was going to come back or be asked back. And Eddie Partridge, when they bought the Partridges and Tom Gatz, when they bought Riverhead, one of the first things they did was bring Bobby back, and I remember the day that it was announced, and everybody was coming on saying, "Good news," because nobody that's been involved, like you said, with racing on Long Island, including myself, could envision another announcer in the booth, even though the ownership change occurred. And definitely with his knowledge and background and everything that you pointed out, it would have definitely been bad if he didn't come back. But thankfully he did, and we hope to have him around for a long time to come.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that as long as Riverhead is open, Bobby will be the voice behind the microphone, unless he, hits the lotto or buys his own racetrack. Because there's no doubt in my mind that Finan has been around so long, and he learned from the best. He learned from Bob O'Rourke. He learned from Walt Betzel. There's no doubt in my mind he could be chief steward. He could be the flagman. There's no doubt. He could do any one of those jobs. But what he does best is behind the microphone, without a doubt, and preserving and promoting short track racing. And we have to, those of us that are blessed enough or fortunate enough or crazy enough to buy and own a racetrack, this is a sport that you do because it's a labor of love. There's no longer, it's not like it was 20 years ago. You just open the gates and people flooded in. You mentioned Facebook the other day, and I'm going to use this opportunity to let anybody know that when you have an issue at a racetrack, getting on Facebook, bashing the officials, bashing the track, you're hurting the sport. You need to take that energy and go to the official. Go face to face. See if there's something that you can work out. And if you can't, you still need to understand that a bad word on Facebook hurts the sport. The owner is still going to be the owner when they get up the next day. Maybe there'll be 5 less people there, 5 less cars, but it's not going to solve an issue that you have. We've had a couple of issues at a speedway we just went to. I'm sure everybody read about Evergreen Speedway. They're a new team of people trying to preserve and promote the sport. And, I know they feel terrible. I was at that race. My son competed in that race just about 2 days ago where he finished. And it's something that I've never seen happen in racing. But, the baton is being, is being handed off. There are new people coming into the speedways trying to keep them going. They're going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. Hopefully you're going to learn from them and not do them again. But I know that the staff at Evergreen Speedway, I know they went home that night not feeling real good. I mean, the general manager called me the next day. He knew I was there, and wanted to talk about, what could we do different? How could we do better? Again, they didn't anticipate having the turnout that they have, and I pray that people will, go back again and realize that they've learned from a mistake, and they made mistakes. But
right.
you can't live in the rear view. You got to live in the windshield, and they have a really great attitude moving forward. I'm positive they'll never make that mistake again, and the sun is always going to come up the next day. So at any racetrack where big mistakes are made, they're talking about a racetrack down in Florida where some disqualifications have really taken over the internet and complaints. How could they disqualify this many drivers? I don't know how they could. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the background. I don't know what the backstory was. But again, if a racetrack or a management from a racetrack makes a mistake and the drivers are not happy, come together as a group and go discuss it. You can't change it once it's already done, but you can have an impact on what happens down the road in the future. And like I said, the drivers don't always get it right. If they did, they'd win every week. Their setup is off sometimes. They got a mismatched set of tires, or something happens with a part on the car. So an error is made. An error can be made also with regards to an official or a track owner, and we just have to work at not making the errors again. So Facebook is a curse and a blessing. I say to every race fan, every race car driver, don't use Facebook or don't use social media as a weapon against a racetrack or a racetrack owner, because it's not good for the sport. Go to the owner, make an appointment, go talk to them. And owners should listen. We should be able to open the door, hear what we did wrong, and consider whether we can change it or whether we had a reason why we did what we did, and somehow come to a respectful agreement. We have to respect our drivers, our fans, our crews, our sponsors, and the respect should come the other way. Because I can tell you, on the other side of the fence, owning and operating a racetrack is not easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Well, I just, first of all, I knew that they changed owners. Not that I knew the owners, but they went from Mountain to Evergreen, so that was the first indication. And then I knew from their website that they changed ownership, that way back when. But also, I had heard about what happened because C.J. Lehman was running up there. And won the Pro Stock event or whatever that particular division is called up there. So he had let me know, and he had been on the program, and he wasn't knocking them by any stretch of the imagination. He ran the modified on Saturday, and then the Pro Stock as well, I guess the next day, and won the event. But I know a lot of the guys from Riverhead had gone up there and ran. The Fortons, John Jr. and the Fortons were up there, and Amber's run there a few times, and generally they have good things to say about it as far as they keep going up there, and speaking for CJ, he wins, but just to back up what you said about the tracks. With Bobby's thing, it was definitely a positive that everybody was saying, good move. But I've seen the knocks too, and it is bad. It's not good. And knowing you personally as I do, although not as I've said many times, not off the track per se, but at the track, and I know you as a person, like you said, always open the door to people and let them as an owner, I'm sure, too, let them have an input. And one of the things that CJ sits in as my producer every week and hears things, and virtually every guest we have on from Riverhead, one of the questions I ask is the improvements with Riverhead under the new ownership. Not that the Cromities, the Cromities did it for years and did a fine job, but we were talking about different improvements, and one of the things that consistently is brought up was that the input between drivers and the owner is so much improved. Now I don't know why, because I remember the Cromities always mixing with people too, so maybe there was a difference of some opinions or what, I don't know. But I know that to a man or to a woman, whoever comes on, with the Riverhead competitors, they're always telling us that the back and forth between the owners and Eddie basically and the drivers are positive. So that is happening, at least where Riverhead is concerned, and it's good to see.
Well, it's actually a good business practice to, complaint is a gift. And we do this a lot with our children, too. Don't touch that. Don't do that. Put your toys away. What's really nice is to accent the positive, though. We went to XYZ Speedway, and this is what was really great about it. The prices were good. The bathroom was clean. Whatever. The racing was great. There was some contact, but we forget to get on and thank the raceway or the competitor, our competitor. You raced me clean. It was really great racing against you. We need to bring out the positive always. That's what I've always done. That I do that at Bronson Speedway. I do that at Bronson Speedway's Facebook page, and I've actually practiced that through most of my life. I grew up at a racetrack. I've been there for good. I've been there for bad. It's never perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. But, even in the days where I had complaints, I never aired them on social media because it's only going to hurt. I'm going to say it again. It only hurts the sport. And we don't want to hurt the sport. We want to have a racetrack to go to. We want to have a racetrack to bring our kids to teach our kids how to race, put our kids in race cars, and be the next generation racer. So it's great to have shows like this where you can talk about it, and it's great to say when you make a mistake, like Evergreen did, you know what, we made a mistake, I'm sorry. And, that has to be commended. It has to be commended. Riverhead Raceway has to be commended. If a driver or somebody has an issue, they can call up and make an appointment, and you should never do it when you're angry. You should wait until Monday morning, Tuesday morning, till you've calmed down and you've looked at the situation from both sides, and then see if you can come to a resolution. It's like any other business, but Riverhead Raceway is a beautiful racetrack, and there's some great racing that go on there, and great race car drivers come out of Riverhead. And I'm actually proud to talk about Riverhead Raceway when people ask me in Florida about it. What about your home track? I'm actually looking forward to trying to get some of my Florida drivers up here to Riverhead some July or August when it's a rainy season down there. I'd love to bring a contingent of drivers similar to what we do at New Smyrna and Bronson Speedway for a kickoff to Speed Week weekend. I'd like to see it happen in the other direction. That's my goal and my plan eventually.
Very good. Just to follow up on, there's actually two things that I was going to follow up on with you. Aside from Bob, which we all want a good turnout for him, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Number one, you had mentioned when you came on, I looked back, it was episode number 2 you were on, the second show that I ever had, Hot Laps with Stats. You were on the second show along with Tracy, I think. But anyway, we had, you had mentioned at the time, New Smyrna and Speed Weeks. Is there anything new that you can let the fans know about as far as that event coming up for next year?
Well, I'm waiting to have another meeting again. I met with Jane and Robert Hart the other day. Kim Brown, we were in their office. New Smyrna Speedway did undergo quite a bit of damage from the hurricane. Their grandstands, which were new last speed weeks, actually ended up on the racetrack. So it's a big undertaking to get those grandstands back up and repaired and ready for the Governor's Cup, which will be in November. So we did speak about the February race. We're still making some plans, but my race, my kickoff to Speed Week's Tour Type Modified race will be on February 18th. That's Saturday night. And we're looking forward to having quite a few of the drivers come back. I spoke with Ryan Priest at Riverhead when I was here. He tells me he's coming back. We've spoken with the other guys that were there, and we think they're all going to plan on stopping at Bronson on their way to New Smyrna for Speed Week. The schedule is on New Smyrna's schedule already on their Facebook page. I'm sorry, on their website. So you can go take a look at the schedule, and it's not quite completely firmed up yet. I think it will be in the next couple of days, and then we'll move on into it. But Sunoco has come on board in a bigger way for this race. Bobby Mason is back. He's put $500 into the purse. So Hoosier Tire is back in. There'll be 4 tires that will be awarded, and my purse is growing. So you'll have to pay attention to Bronson Speedway's Facebook for further updates. But it promises to be a pretty good race. And I've also invited the open wheel modifieds of my open wheel modifieds. You guys probably know them as IMSA modifieds. We call them open wheel modifieds at Bronson Speedway. I've put them on the card too. I'd like to see those guys meet the tour type modified guys, and eventually I actually want to start to sell tour type modifieds at Bronson Speedway. That's a big goal of mine. I need a bigger wallet to do that, but Brad LaFontaine from Northeast Auto is also back on board as a sponsor for my race. So I would love to have a crate type modified, tour type modified division at Bronson Speedway. Keep the costs down, keep the cars hot, fast, and affordable. So that's a goal that I have coming up. I'd like the Grand Enduro guys to come down and race that weekend for Speed Weeks. Mike Capiello and I have been talking. So any division that wants to come down. Bob Finan will be the announcer for that race, which I don't know how many people know that yet or not, but Bob has taken me up on my offer to come and announce that tour type modified race. So I'm looking forward to having him at Bronson Speedway and having him meet my announcing staff, and I think they'll be able to learn quite a bit from the way Bob does things, and I'm appreciative that he's going to come down.
A little bit of a mentoring program there, huh? Very good. Very good. Very good. The other thing that sticks out to me, we discussed many things with your track, with Bronson when you came on, the first time. But the other thing we were talking about was you trying to set up the Legends coming down there. Anything further on that?
Here, the Legends have gone for their Winter Nationals, I believe they're going to Citrus County Speedway. That's the last announcement that I heard. They're kind of a quiet type organization, so that's the last that I heard about the Legends. We do have the Pro Challenge type cars that'll be with us for that kickoff to Speed Weeks, which are similar to the Legends division in size-wise and price. They're just Pro Challenge, which you can find on the internet also. There's a Canadian contingent of Pro Challenge and different regions of Pro Challenge in the United States. So similar to INX, but they're a Pro Challenge, a little bit different car. They actually look like a scaled-down Sprint Cup car as opposed to looking like a Legend. And they run the smaller engines and what have you. Okay.
I wasn't aware that you had a whole different division with different bodies, but that's interesting to note. I could picture a scaled down sprint car, so I know a Sprint Cup car. So, Okay, anything else that you want to bring up as far as your track or even tomorrow night, how fans can just come to the door? I assume it's, too late. How you're going to get tickets the night before, but available
just come to the door. $30 from what I gather. $30 is buffet dinner, all you can eat, and your first cocktail is on the house, which is very nice of Tim. Tim, that's his brother, of Stephen Halpin, and Stephen and Bob have worked together, and there's a very healthy respect and a great working relationship there, and I'm really excited about having the opportunity to say thank you to Bob Finan, and I'm hoping that everybody else feels as I do, that anybody that puts that many years behind this great sport and helps promote, preserve the sport of auto racing on Long Island, I just hope everybody makes it out. The weather's great, and give him a pat on the back and tell him thanks a lot for a great, for a great job and for what he does.
Yes, definitely, and like I said, I'm sorry that I'm not able to be there, and I will definitely reach out to him, in a private message on Facebook or somehow, and just let him know that I'm thinking about him. And you talk about how far he's gone back. I remember when he was co-announcer with Mike Kalanoff. So he's been through a couple of co-announcers, let's say, and Stephen is the latest edition. But Bob has been at the top of the announcer list, as you say, on Long Island, and now he's trying to conquer Florida with your help too. So that's good.
I don't think he'll have any problem conquering Florida. They might have a little hard time with his accent, but I'm sure he'll fall right in. And listen, anybody that can't make it, or if you just want to get out your smartphone, do a quickie little video, clip it, send it to Pete Milano. If you go on to Stephen Halpin's Facebook page, I put the information up there. I'll put it at the top of my Facebook page, and you can make a quick little snippet. And Pete Milano from it was Pitbull, I think is what he does. Said he'll put it together and say it again.
Pit Stop Pitbull fan.
He'll put it together, and then Bob will have that to take with him on a DVD, and you can really give it to him on a little snippet of video.
There you go. But I'll definitely do that, and I appreciate you coming on and telling the fans about this, and I want to see him get a lot of recognition tomorrow night, because that's a deserving man right there.
Absolutely.
Everything he does, not only behind the mic, and you brought this out too, with his research, and I can even say it reaches out to New England. And I have to mention one thing that you might not be aware of, although we've had the show come up on the show. Jim Williams, who you probably know from the Riverhead, he's involved with the New England Antique Races. We've had him on, and I met him at Riverhead when he is the man who has the replica of the Tommy Baldwin Senior's modified, and he brings it up to the Baldwin Zombeck Evans event every year. And he wants to know the background of that car that he has, and it used to be Peggy Smith's car and everything else. And I'm trying to put him in touch with Bob, because Bob would be the one to tell him all that in terms of the history of that car. So, we're going to try and eventually hook the two of them up. And I want to have him on the show just for the, like you said, the different things that he does, not only behind the mic, but with the website, and with, every time I'm in the pits, I can see him walking through with me, always ahead of me, but with his clipboard, taking down all the sponsors on each car, and making sure that every time that he mentions the car number and the specific division, that he also mentions the sponsors as well. So he's an ultimate professional where that's concerned. And if you need something, you need advice, you need an idea, he is the guy to go to and tap into his pearls of wisdom, because he's got plenty of them. And yes. It's great to be able to get the word out and tell everybody, come on down, have a cocktail, and let Bob Finan know that we appreciate what he does. Definitely. And like I said, I'm going to try and reach out to him tomorrow during the day before the event, and definitely give him my best. If I know you're going to be there, give him my best, and I look forward to hearing. I'll be in touch with you. I know I'll be in touch with you eventually, and we'll talk about what went on, and I'm sure I'll see things on Facebook as well. So, thank you for the opportunity to talk about Bronson Speedway. I'm going to invite everybody, all the fans, come on down to Bronson Speedway, February 18th. Bring your cars. We'll let you get out there, and looking forward to the Tour Type Modifieds putting on a great show. My fans are real excited about you guys coming back. There's plenty of overnight parking, and it'll be a fun time, and you'll have plenty of time to get over to New Smyrna and do what you need to do during Speed Weeks. There you go. Kill two birds with one stone, and have some fun while you're doing it. There you go. Anybody has any questions about Bronson Speedway, you can find us at bronsonspeedway.net. You can find us at Bronson Speedway Facebook, or you can give us a call, 352-486-4998. There you go, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Ann Young, the owner of Bronson Speedway. And for those that don't know the story, her and her late husband, Chris, had bought, first they had run, her husband, Chris, and her ran a modified at Riverhead, and like she said, he's been involved in racing on Long Island almost as long as Bob Finan has. And I've been around that long at this stage. Like I said, her and her husband, and who are friends of mine from the track, we didn't socialize too often off the track. That's why it would have been nice to do that tomorrow night, but unfortunately I couldn't do it. But anyway, we had known each other from the track and so forth, and she does a fine job now in what she's doing, and her and her husband ran the modified. He ran the figure eight before that, and then unfortunately passed away, I want to say, in 2014, but they had bought Bronson Speedway and refurbished it, kind of like what Eddie Partridge did with Riverhead on Long Island, and ran it together for a time, and her son is involved in racing, raced a Legend and a modified now. He runs his dad's modified, and now she's on the ownership side, but like everybody else on Long Island, we owe a debt of gratitude, if for nothing else, just for the entertainment value of knowing Bob Finan and knowing about racing, and you just can't get a complete. We've talked about Marty Himes. Can't get a complete history of racing on Long Island without mentioning the name Bob Finan. He's been involved in so many tracks on Long Island, and basically is, and it sounds cliche-ish, but it is true in his case, the voice of auto racing on Long Island. Whatever track was involved, he always seemed to be involved with the announcing end of it. And as Ann told you, in February when she has her event, Bob will be going down there and announcing down there. So, like I said, he's into two tracks now, 2 states. So it'll be famous in at least 2 states, but definitely get out there and get information on tomorrow night's event. I know one person spoke to today that wanted more information, so I hope that you gathered the information you need and that you're out there tomorrow night, and you know who I'm referring to. That spoke to me today. Hope that you're there as well. And all the fans definitely on Long Island that have a history, either driving or owning a car or really virtually anything to do with auto racing on Long Island, get out and support Bobby tomorrow night, because he is really a special individual, and you know, definitely someone that is a well-deserved tribute tomorrow night at TJ HALPINS. So, like Ann, I'm hoping for a huge turnout. Okay. Our second guest, if he's in the studio or not, is CJ. Is he in?
No, I still don't see him in the studio.
Okay. You want to make that call? I don't know why people are slow tonight or what the situation is. But anyway, our second guest is Kyle Ellwood. Another kind of a tribute, except a little bit more on the dark side of this. A young man who unfortunately passed way too soon and was in basically go-karts, and I don't know a lot about the situation, and that's why Kyle's coming on, but the JAY TRINCA Memorial Race will be held by the end of October. So I believe it's this week or next as well. We'll wait and see if Kyle calls in or CJ gets hold of him. Pick up the phone, please, Kyle.
Hello?
Hello, Kyle.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hey, it's Mike Perricone. How's it going? You're on the air.
Hey. Oh, all right. How you doing?
Okay. How's it going?
Good.
Just to start out, the main reason we have you on, I'll get to your season and anything that's coming up for you personally. But tell the fans a little bit about the JAY TRINCA Memorial.
The Jason Trinca Memorial is pretty much, a memorial race in memory of his life and his mother. You know, they left us, a couple of years ago, and he was a part of the racing family, and his father is, and his brothers are still a big part of the racing family. So, we did a little memorial race in his memory just to, it's a nice thing because it's tough to see, a kid with so much love for something like that at such a young age. It's a sad deal. So we do a nice little memorial race for him, and we try to bring in as many go-karts as we can get. We split the race into segments of a grand total of 48 laps in memory of his number, and we pay some good money. So we try to get as many go-karts down as we possibly can from Connecticut and upstate New York, and just to get this big race together and show some support, and that's how it started, and that's how it still is today. We're going to hope for a good showing tomorrow. The weather looks pretty good, so I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see what happens from there.
There you go. You can you talk about tomorrow. You go to the JAY TRINCA Memorial tomorrow, Jason Trinca Memorial, and then drop by TJ HALPINS, and you take care of both events. Yes, we got the Trinca Memorial during the day. Bob Finan will give you that night. There you go.
Yeah, it's a nice deal. I think that's going to be a pretty good turnout. It's nice to see even doing something like that for Bob, you know, a guy that put in a lot of time to Riverhead Raceway and that's his life, you know, is the racetrack. So it's nice to see. Hopefully I can make it down there tomorrow and help celebrate.
There you go. Definitely a special guy, and I'll reach out to him on Facebook, but unfortunately I won't be there. I wanted to be, but about your season, how things go in total? Are you still running the Turkey Derby, or what's happening now?
Yeah, we're gonna go to Derby with the legend car of Greg Harris, and we're gonna see what we can do. You know, we got a pretty good track record at Wall Stadium, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. You know, it's one race that I look forward to. As soon as I leave the Speedway, I want to be back. So it's something I look forward to all year long. So we're gonna hope for a pretty good showing there. Like I said, we normally have some pretty decent race cars when we go to that track. So it's definitely something, you know, exciting. You know, I'm looking forward to it. You know, we're contemplating bringing the modified, but it's just a lot. So we're going to go at the legend car and have some fun. You know, we did that all year, so we're going to continue that and go from there.
Right. I know I had seen it on NBC-FM, and in fact, I know you took the modified to Thompson, and unfortunately, early on in the race ended up meeting up with the wall or something happened to you, but you know, that was the first time, I think, out for the modified this year, correct?
Yeah, throttle stuck on me going into turn one, and, you know, as a race car driver, it's probably one of the worst things other than fire that can happen to you. So definitely unfortunate. We put a lot of time and effort into getting this thing ready. You know, we did 2 races, actually. Our first race was Stafford Motor Speedway. You know, we went back there. Yeah, and we had some issues. You know, the carburetor wasn't running correctly, so we didn't finish the race. And, you know, then we go to Thompson with high hopes. And, you know, we put a lot of effort into it and just wanted to get a solid finish, honestly. And it didn't happen, but that's racing, you know, and it's what you deal with every week. So you just got to take it how it comes. And, you know, hopefully one day it gets dished back in the other direction. So that's what we're going to look forward to.
Right. Well, about what are you going to be doing next year? The legend, and you're going to run the modified more next year, or what?
I really have no plans for next year. You know, I have no set idea. You know, we have a lot of talking to do over the winter, you know, with both of my car owners, and we're going to see where we go from there. I really don't have any set plans, you know. Got nothing really in mind yet.
Yeah, there was, I remember, you know, when I guess it was, trying to think of the years. I know 2013 and 14 probably. You were running basically the modified both years. The first year you had the yellow. I remember your paint jobs. You had the yellow or the gold and the purple, and then you had the car you have now, the white and the paint job you have now, the white with the blue or the pink. And so you were running that a majority of the time. Then you went and got back in the legend with, I guess, Greg. And so I know you run both. This year you even ran a late model. So it was about
yeah, you know, sometimes you just got to take a step back and regroup. You know, it's tough at the modified. It requires a lot of funds, and it really wasn't there for us this year. So you know, we just took the back seat. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I had just as fun this year as I would any other year. You know, made a lot of great relationships this year. And we won a ton of races, so you know, you really can't complain too much about that. And anytime you can leave the racetrack with a trophy, no matter what division you're in, is a good night. You know what I mean? So definitely not gonna, you know, be pounded up about it because I thought we had a pretty good season in a whole. So not really worried about it too much. You know, like I said, luck, you know, is a big thing, and we didn't really have that with us this year. You know, I've been a pretty lucky guy in the past, and I think I'm finally paying it because. You know, this year has been a luck nightmare for us and our team. But like I said, it's all part of racing, so you just got to take your lumps as they come, and hopefully, you know, it gets back to you in the way that you'd like it, you know, sooner or later.
Well, the good thing about the end of the season, or like you say, after the Turkey Derby, then you look ahead to 2017, you know?
Yeah, you know, hope we can have a good run at Turkey Derby. You know, we won last year, so It was nice rolling into the season, or ending the season on a win. Nothing wrong with going off all winter and having a win under your belt. That's like a pretty good feeling.
There you go. And then, I mean, you've always run the Legend. I remember you were running the Legend back in 2011 when you were partnered with, well, you probably still are, but you had the same, all three cars had the same paint job, the white and the black. So I remember you had that, the 77X, or 71X, not 77, 71. For the longest time you were running that Legend. So yeah,
they're fun cars. I love them. I know people might say I beat up on everybody or whatever you want to have it. I mean, I don't really look at it that way. I look at it as I'm a competitor just like everybody else. But I have a good time in those cars. It's fun. And you can really drive them hard. And the racing's pretty competitive. So I'm going to race it as long as I have a ride. I'm just going to keep going. It's fun to me. And I know, I can look forward to a decent run in a Legend car every week because, I got that figured out.
Yeah.
So, it's never a bad night with that car unless something bad happens. But, it's fun to drive. I love those little cars.
So basically, you're probably going to come back with a Legend next year anyway, right? Because you at least run a Legend.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, time will tell. I really don't know what Greg's plans are for next year. We talked briefly about it, but as far as I know, we're going to go to Turkey Derby, and he's looking to venture out into another division for 2017. So, we'll see what happens. He's mentioned to me that he'd like to keep a car and let me run, but I'm not pressuring him to do anything. He can do what whatever's going to be the best for him. I've had my fun, so we're all one big team. So whatever he wants to do, we all do. It's how it works. So. So whatever he feels like he wants to do next year is what we'll do.
So what is he thinking of doing? You said he's going up in the division?
Well, yeah, like I said, everything's still so fresh. There is no set rules for any divisions. You're hearing possibilities of new divisions, so there's really nothing set in stone. Hence the fact that I really don't know what's going on. But, time will tell.
Right, okay. No, because I know there's been talk. I don't know if this is in his, what he's thinking of, or if there's some other division on the horizon. We had Eddie, CJ and I had Eddie on the program about 2 weeks ago, and he didn't mention anything about necessarily another division opening up. He was just talking about the crate mods expanding. With other people coming into crate mods.
Yeah, maybe not as far as a new division, but I hear maybe something along the lines of turning the Grand Enduros into a street stock, maybe just changing the name and adding caution. That's probably what I meant when I said, not necessarily adding anything, just altering what's already there.
Right.
If that even happens, I'm not even sure. It's what you hear on the street.
Yeah, and then it's no, but I know you've always run the Legend at least, and then whatever else you run, like you said, on a given, you might have money to run a sponsorship to run a modified, this year even a late model or whatever, but I've always known you at least run a Legend, so, It's kind of tough to envision you sitting on the sidelines. I don't see that happening.
It's just like I said, it was tough sitting this year out in the modified, but like I said, sometimes you got to take a step back to move forward. So we're just going to collect what we have, and we had a good time at those last two tour races, even though it didn't quite go the way we expected. It is what it is. You just make strides from that and go after the next one.
Well, I know you a while, and we know each other, and it's funny because I always said, you're one of the people, and like the Turbishes too, that you don't see. You put four wheels, you put four tires and body on it, and you'll race it, whatever it is, as long as it goes fast.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how I was raised. Just take up on it every opportunity you can get because you never know when you're never going to get another one. So, it's kind of how I go about things. I just, I'll drive a shopping cart if I have to. I love racing. It's, something that I love to do, and, there's no other feeling, that can replace, that adrenaline rush. So I'll do just about anything to get behind the wheel of something.
There you go. Talk about your sponsors this year, or anybody you want to give a shout out to.
Yeah, like I said, on the previous show, like Andre Vega and Amy Spiro, Mikey Spiro, Eastside Boulders, SGS Stoneworks, Greg and Christy Harris, Christian, Eric Ziegel, all those guys that put in a lot of time over there, Kevin Chu, it's all my crew guys, they do a lot for me, and, we wouldn't be there without them, so, I got to give a big hand out to them. I got 2 really good crews. It doesn't really come like that a lot, so, it's hard to find good guys of good quality, and I got 2 full sets of them, so, it's kind of touching. It's touching that people actually leave their houses every night to come to the shop to put time into stuff that I like to do. It means a lot. More to me than, I think a lot of people express, but you got to realize without those crew guys, you wouldn't be there. So, they put a lot of effort into my success, so, I can't thank them enough.
Yep. Definitely, you have all those guys, like you said, from the East End that come out and help you out. And, like you said, you have, a lot of the guys do things differently. Some have the 2 crews like for each bar, and some have just the one set that goes any car that happens to be running that week. But you're one of the lucky ones, and you have the 2 or 3 crews working on, separate cars. So I would assume that helps out too in terms of putting the time in. You don't feel like you're shortchanging one car over another, or one division over another, because you have the 2 crews working on each car, so it helps. But what are you going to be doing in the off season now? All right, so say other than sponsorship and getting things together, if you want to get away from it for a while, what do you end up doing?
Yeah, we finished off the year. From here to, December, we run with the ELIR, Eastern Long Island Karting Association, whatever we have there. It's the go-karters, they're the future of our sport. So, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy racing with the kids because, that was me at one point. So it's kind of cool to see, what the future is going to be. So, I encourage everybody I can to come down to the go-karts and check it out because, that's going to be what we have left here in 10 or so years, So, I enjoy that. We do that. And then it's just rebuild season for the race cars. Tear down what you have to tear down and go from there. Spend a little time with, your significant other and just regroup, because it's a long season. 18 races is a lot. And it's draining on everything, draining on your family. And it's just the off-season is nice. You get to regroup, If you got a street car like I have, I got a Mustang. I've been working on that all day. So,
yeah.
You get a little time away from it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting when you said working with the kids, and I got to come down now that the bus runs on Sunday too. When I get back, I got to come down and check it out because I'm thinking of you mentoring the next group of legend drivers. They come up through the years, I guess. That's the next group of legend drivers you're working with.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I said, everyone started there. Like my group, the group older than me, you got to tell them, boys, they come through the go-karts. Bonsignor brothers, Bonsignor, and then, Kyle Bonsignor, cousin there. They all come from the go-karts. And Tommy Rogers comes from the go-karts. And Soper and me, we're that's my age group. Craig Lutz, Jeff Goodale, that's like my era, and we all come from the go-karts. So it's like this is what breeds the racers. It's starting when you're young. So it's cool to get down there and check it out, and see what they got. It's cool to watch them build themselves into young drivers.
There you go. Do you happen to set up or help set up Soper's truck this weekend or what?
No. he went down there. I think it's a pretty cool deal for him. You never really get that opportunity a lot. So I think whatever he had going on, it's awesome. It's something that I would love to do, and I think anybody would love to do. It's a dream come true, in all honesty. So I'm really happy for him, and I hope he's having a good time down there. And just hopefully he gets in the show tomorrow. We'll all be watching. Hopefully he gets in. It's a tough field to make. And he's there. He's on the television. That's about as high as you can get. So it's pretty cool to see.
There you go. We'll see if he gets interviewed.
Yeah.
No, but it was funny because I've been putting stuff up on Facebook all day. Well, yesterday and today, and on the 110 pages too, because he's going to be on the show next week. So I told him we better have a good showing for tomorrow, Friday night. Next Friday. So it'd be nice to see what he does in first attempt, and like you say, not everybody gets that opportunity, and he got to break somehow in some way, and you got to be in the right place at the right time. Who knows? Maybe next year will be you.
Yeah, you never know. You can only hope.
If they're, you got the right name anyway.
Yeah.
You see what happens, But all right, I figured maybe because when you said you could be on the program, I said, okay, he's not going to Martinsville. I thought you might be going down with him or something, But
I definitely wanted to, but work kind of interfered with that a tad bit, so didn't get a hold of that. But hopefully next year, something like that, I keep continuing with it. We'll be able to go.
That's it. But all right, anything else you want to bring up as far as what you're going to be doing, or in the off
that's
season?
really it, man. Just gonna get ready and go to bed so I can get a fresh start tomorrow morning with these kids.
There you go, and good luck with the event, and hopefully you get a chance to go down and check out Bob's event, and pass along my hellos, and say hello for me if you get down.
All right. We'll do.
Maybe you'll see him tomorrow, one way or the other, because they'll probably be at the Trinca event too, right?
Yes.
Yep. So pass along my best to him, and I'll be talking to you, Kyle. Thanks a lot for coming on.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that was Kyle Ellwood, and definitely that's two events. See, I wasn't sure exactly the time for each event. I knew Bobby's event was at night. I wasn't sure about the Trinca Memorial, but that's during the day. So definitely, if you're around the Riverhead Raceway and on Long Island, kind of make it a racing day. Go to the JAY TRINCA Memorial in the daytime, and then drop by TJ HALPINS at night, and give homage to Bob Finan, and have a day, a racing themed day, a day at the track, and one of the better ways. What better way, if you're a race fan, to spend Saturday than basically at the racetrack, and then follow up with a racing event at night. And that's definitely something that you look forward to as a race fan. And again, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there for Bobby's event, but I will definitely pass on my best to him as well tomorrow, and basically when I say in person, probably through Facebook. But definitely get down there. And now that I know that the JAY TRINCA event is also during the day tomorrow, get out to both events and make it a racing day for sure. One of the things I want to do is get Bob on, and perhaps even get Jim at least to listen when I book Bob, and we'll ask Bob about. I touched on this with Ann that Jim Williams, who is the owner of the Tom Baldwin Senior Replica Modified, wanted to know the history of that car. And there's no better person to know the history of any car, any race car, probably on Long Island, than Bob Finan. And I'll try to hook those two people up one way or another and get Bobby to tell him about the history of his car, Jim Williams, that he's looking to get some information about. But definitely tomorrow is going to be an interesting race day for all concerned at the track, and then later on at TJ Halpins. And as Ann was mentioning too, I didn't get a chance to mention that often. She brought it up that Bob is now the co-announcer with Stephen Halpin, who is a owner of TJ Halpins, and is a sponsor, among others. I'm not sure exactly how many sponsors. I know he sponsors C.J. Lehman's family car, as well as sponsoring TJ Halpins, as well as sponsoring the Visconti Modified, the Visconti Motorsports Crate Modified. So, he's been around racing, and I've been trying to get him to sponsor for CJ. To know he's one of the sponsors that I've touched base with, and he told me that he possibly nothing set in stone, but as he sets up next year's budget, he might sponsor Hot Laps with Stats next year. So hopefully, looking forward to that. And I touched bases with him earlier in the season when I was setting up my show. He said he already had set up, sponsorship of the two cars and so forth, and he was budgeted out. So hopefully next year we'll be able to work something with TJ Halpins as well to get sponsorship for Hot Laps with Stats next year. So we'll see what happens there. Nothing set in stone, but we'll see. But definitely make every effort to get out there. And will be out there. A lot of people from the racing community on Long Island will be out there honoring fine gentlemen. And I don't really know what would happen. Obviously, there'd be somebody in the seat, but he wouldn't be as good as Bob Finan. He is definitely a historian of auto racing on Long Island, and definitely knows his stuff, and promotes fan involvement, promotes team involvement, and most of the time, also his day job, I know he works in a place where I forgot the name of his day job where he's an assistant manager, but he works in the auto. It's an auto service type of situation, and he works with the racers there as well. The racers bring their personal car into him as well. So Bobby definitely uses his racing contacts both ways, both to promote fans and drivers and sponsors, and like Ann said, in really all aspects of the racing community, extending to their personal cars as well. So definitely get out there tomorrow night and support that event. The other two events I want to mention relating to things going on in the coming months of November. Jim Williams, Paul Massey, and the New England Antique Racers, for those of you in New England and Rhode Island and Boston and anywhere, I guess, in New England, all the New England tracks there, Loudon and up and down the East Coast. They're New England Antique Racers have their Hall of Fame induction ceremony in November. That you can go on their website and follow the links and to get tickets and see availability and prices. And the reason I'm not making the announcement is because it's kind of complicated and long. But if you go on the website, you get all the information right there. The other event coming up in November again, because I have that right in front of me at the present time, November 18th is the Stafford Motor Speedway banquet. And, of course, all the tracks now having a banquet, an awards banquet. And Eddie, off the top of my head, mentioned last week, because Connie keeps track of this, I guess, because while he was talking to us, to us on the program, CJ and myself, when he was on, I think he said something like January the 7th is the Riverhead Raceway banquet as well. So a lot of the tracks, when they finish up, Wall's still going on with an event. Of course, the Turkey Derby is big with them. That's their last event around Thanksgiving, obviously, hence the name. But they'll I assume they'll be having something. All tracks do after that event. But the two or three that I'm aware of in November, the two that I'm aware of in November, and then one in January. November is the Stafford event on the 18th, and the New England Antique Racers Hall of Fame induction with the inductees and their families and teams and whatever, and fans are involved in that. And so you can get tickets there. You can also get tickets to the Stafford Motor Speedway event. That's open to the fans. And also the Riverhead event, which comes up on January the 7th. So those three events. And again, I will try and get guests. As we get closer to those events, I will try to get guests relating to that, whether it's some inductees I can get through Jim or whoever's involved, like we did tonight with Ann, with the specific tributes. I will definitely try to book those people as we get closer to the events in November. So that's interesting. And like I said, I want to get some drivers from Stafford, specifically because they run on Friday nights during the regular season, and obviously are unavailable because they're competing to appear on our live program, but of course taking advantage of the opportunity, not advantage of them, but taking advantage of the opportunity to have them on in the off season. I'd like to get some of the competitors and touch base with them on what they're doing in the off season to get themselves prepared for 2017. And again, as announcements are made, another thing that I wanted to bring up relating to Riverhead, I believe I mentioned this, touch base with this, or mentioned this briefly last week because it just occurred, and Eddie was saying that it was going to happen, or they were going to attempt to put it together, and unfortunately with issues with the town, I believe, they are not going to be able to do it this year. The Fall Frenzy for the Legend guys will not be held in November, unfortunately. They had it last year and will not have it this year. But we'll move on to 2017. And the first event of the year, I guess in January, will be the banquet. And then before you know it, the 2017 season will be kicking off again. So practice, I'm assuming, will be in April. So before you know it, the off season will not be too much of an off season for the guys working on the cars, as you're well aware from the competitors we've had on. Everybody from Doug Colby on down saying that their crews obviously take a break for the holidays, such as Christmas or whatever holiday at the time they observe, that and Thanksgiving, of course, but also from that point on, basically all the competitors we've had on the 110 Nation, be it CJ's program, my program, or Steve Gilmeier's program, they all at one time or another seem to never step away from their cars. I mean, they do, and they get a break from it, but basically they're always working on the car, even in the off season. They're either getting a new one ready or refurbishing their old one, or like Kyle was saying tonight, working on the car pretty much off season. If they're not running it, they're working on it. So getting it ready for the next race. And that's basically my experience on Long Island, but also since I've been hosting and co-hosting on the 110 Nation, virtually every guest we've had, says they step away to spend time with their families over the holidays, but pretty much right after that, it's back to the garages and the shops to work on the car. So racing is one of those events or one of those sports all of a sudden that's becoming year round. And that's why one of the reasons we want to keep racing alive, because we want to keep as many of our short tracks going, and that's why fan support is so important. Also in the off season, things like swap shops and everything going on. There's also going to be a swap shop coming up at Riverhead. Go on the website and learn about that. I'll find it again. Once again, all the things he does is greatly involved in that endeavor as well. So go to the website and find out about that event. That usually comes up in December, early in December, and I think there's another one even earlier than that this year. So go to the website and find out about all the information about that, www.riverheadraceway.com. And, of course, Bob puts that together and is also involved in putting the website together. And another one of his many duties that he does in flying form, and always gets the information out to people. And so you can find any information of what's coming up with that, and I will have further information from him on that as that becomes available, and I'll make that announcement on the program as well as that comes up. As I said, there's one coming up in December and one even earlier than that, so I will have the information on that as well. again, I want to touch base with the fans and say that for the off season as well, if there's somebody that you'd like to see become guest on the program that I haven't, that either escaped my notice, and I try to keep up to date with everything. But if you're in Connecticut or in New England and know of a driver that you'd like to see get some publicity and some recognition for a good year or a particularly fine year he's had, and I know I keep track of the Wayland guys. I've had a few of them on. I've had the champion on, Doug Kobe, on the show twice this year. But if there's a person that runs in one of the New England tracks that I'm not aware of or that escaped my notice, by all means, drop me a private message on Facebook or on my the fan page, the Hot Laps with Stats fan page. Connect with me there, and I will do what I can. Get me the information and get me the contact information, and I will try and connect with that particular driver and have him or her on the program during the off season as well. And I'll definitely keep up with my end and book some diverse guests. I pride myself in not only talking to drivers. Now, tonight we spoke to a driver, but basically he was on to talk about the event, and of course, Ann, being a track owner, again, to talk about the tribute event to Bob Finan. But what I like to do, similar to what CJ was saying with his program, he likes to have a new face or a new voice on the radio, and then a returning guest. What I like to do on a basic week of the show is to have one driver from one division or one track, and then have a support staff member during the second hour, be it a official or what I call generally the support staff. Anybody else that helps run the Speedway operation or the Raceway operation. There's more to it, as we've said many times on not only my show but on the 110 Nation. Is generally speaking, on any of the programs, there's much more to running a track than just the drivers. The drivers are obviously vital to the action, obviously, but there's so much more that goes into the running of a track and that fans may not be aware of. So I try to book some diverse people and get them a little bit on the radio, talk to us, and share what their duties are, from week to week at a track, to see that goes smoothly, and their contributions on a weekly basis as well. And it's not all strapping into a vehicle and going fast, although that's a vital part of it as well, of course. But as far as, again, guests coming up, I'm going to have a lot of guests relating to the different banquets. I'm going to touch base now with this weekend or into early next week, touch base with some people from Stafford and see about getting some of their honorees on during the banquet now that I know the date, and book some people in November around that particular date with the Stafford award banquet coming up. Again, Thompson just ending, or not Thompson, but the Whalen Modified people. We had Doug Colby on and was named the champion. So their season is over with. Timmy Salamito, I'll be keeping an eye on this weekend because he is running wall in a modified event. And he's running for another team, not the 16, not the Flamengo Motorsports, but another team. And Timmy's another person with, from Riverhead who runs the Whalen Modified Tour generally with this Flamengo Motorsports, but also runs his family car and that the Salamitos put together. Linda, Jerry Sr., and all of his brothers run a modified. He'll be running at Wall Stadium for another owner this week. Believe that's tomorrow night. I saw his post earlier today. So he'll be running that in that event, and I'll keep an eye on him, and we'll possibly have him on as a guest next week, depending on how things go. As I said, we already have Kyle Super plugged into next week. We have possibly Darren McCabe, who helps me as my eyes and ears at the track when I'm not there. And so we'll have him on. And then the third guest next week, if everything falls correctly, will be Timmy Salamito. But I'm going to try and get him as a third guest next Friday as well. We'll see how that happens. We'll see what happens this week for him at Wall Stadium. So definitely follow that. For those of you on Long Island and know Timmy, he runs everywhere. And he's another individual in that whole family. You put them in a vehicle that goes fast, and they have a chance of money. Another one of those people from Long Island that run anywhere and run competitively. So keep your eye open for him, and I will definitely see what happens with him over the weekend. Got a couple of tracks to follow with guys wrapping things up with the end of the season, and of course, will all be the last thing I believe to close for the season with the Turkey Derby. So that'll be an interesting thing, and I don't know exactly what the event tomorrow, probably with them running a modified event, that's going to be a lot of the guys shaking down their cars for the Turkey Derby and getting it prepared, dialed into that track. So that'll be an interesting event this weekend as well. If you're in New Jersey and your home track is Wall Stadium, get out to that tomorrow night. It should be an interesting event, tour modified event at Wall Stadium tomorrow, in addition to whatever else they might be running in terms of support divisions. I don't know what else is going on, but I do know from Timmy, from seeing Timmy's post, that he'll be running a tour modified tomorrow in their event. So definitely get out if you're in New Jersey, and I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but definitely get out to that event. That'll be an interesting event for this weekend as well. Okay, want to bring in CJ and we'll wrap this up. CJ, you there?
Yeah. There we go. I was having technical difficulties there. My screen kept turning off on every time I turned around to try to hit the mute button. But anyway, I want to thank both of our guests coming on. It was great to be able to listen to both those guests, and always an interesting story when you get to listen to different people and what they do and the athletes that we have on the show. So I just want to thank both of our guests. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Hot Laps with Stats right here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. Don't forget you can check out the 110 Nation Sports Show. Mike will be there with me every Monday through Wednesday, 7 p.m. And check us out on Facebook, 110 Nation Sports, and check us out on Twitter at 110 Nation.
And I'll be following this weekend also the Cleveland Indians for CJ. But so a lot of World Series action, and CJ will be glued to his TV the rest of the weekend, I would assume. But
yep.
Good luck to his Cleveland Indians and everything Cleveland, and he's got to have some success, fans, because the Browns aren't doing so well. But anyway, I want to thank all the fans for tuning in, and definitely tune in to all of our programs, because if the fans aren't there, we're not able to do this. You are the reason we do this. We enjoy it, but it's vital that we have people listening to us. So definitely tune in to not just my program on Friday night, but all of the programs we have all during the week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, as CJ said. His program, where I am co-host with him, proudly, and thank him for that. And then on Thursday, another buddy of mine that got me started in this little endeavor and gratefully introduced me to CJ, Steve Billmeyer, with Racing with Big Sweat, and Chris Crichton, who took over for, I guess you could say, took over for me when I moved over to my own program, and he is now co-hosting with Steve, in addition to all of our programs, including this one. I want to thank the fans again for tuning in, and definitely we'll talk to you next week.